Hi there. So for those of you who have just joined in, we are giving a bit more time for others to join us, and we will start the webinar session at 8:05. Okay, so let's start. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nurul, and I am the pre-assessment consultant for GMS. Thank you very much for taking the time to register and attend this webinar. Our topic for today is the 5 must-dos for your Australia skilled migration application. But apart from this, we will also share with you about the benefits of becoming a PR, as well as the available pathways for the Australia General Skilled Migration Program. And these are our expert advisors. Both Desmond Ang and James Allen Hall are licensed migration advisors registered with both the Australia government and New Zealand government. However, our speaker for today will be Audrey Anthony. So Audrey is our associate director, and she has over 13 years of experience in the General Skilled Migration Program, Family Visa, and also RRV. So before we start our session, I just want to share a little bit about our company. Global Migration Solutions, also known as GMS, is a migration firm that specializes in Australia, New Zealand, Portugal, Canada, and United States residency program. We are known as a premier migration firm as we provide the best migration solution, and most importantly, we handhold our clients throughout the migration process as much as possible, from the initial consultation until their settlement in their respective migration destination. We advocate the right migration practices with trust, transparency, and commitment. So what is unique about us is that we don't have a sales team, and we do not encourage our candidates to be advised by a salesperson. Your eligibility assessment will only be undertaken by our consultants. And apart from that, all our team members are equipped with relevant migration knowledge. So when you call us to inquire, they will be able to provide you with basic information before putting you through to the right consultant. So what you see here on the screen right now are photos of us working together closely with our partners, as well as the Australia state government representatives. I'm proud to say that we have a very good working relationships with all state governments. We have over 19 years of experience, and we have successfully assisted over 12,000 families worldwide, with more to come in the pipeline. To date, our success record is 99%. And not only that, we are also the only migration agency in Malaysia that was awarded the top 25 migration agency CEO award from UGlobal, which is a migration magazine based in the United States. So what you see here are our industry recognitions. You can see that we have come quite far from. In 2018, we were like top 100, and 2019, we were top 50, 2021, top 25, and 2022, top 25. Okay, so this is our license. You can find them in the Australia government website. You can see that Desmond Ang and both James, as I mentioned, they are both registered licensed advisors. And we have presence in these countries: Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Hong Kong. So even though we are the pioneers for Australia migration, we also provide migration services for New Zealand Entrepreneur Migration, the New Zealand Entrepreneur Plus Visa, and Migrant Investor Visa. And for the United States, we provide the EB5 Green Card Program. And for Portugal, we provide the Golden Visa and D7 Visa. So I'll pass the floor to Audrey to begin her presentation.
Thank you, Nurul, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. A very good evening to all of you. It's nice to see quite a large crowd turning out on a Tuesday night. And to those who are joining us for the first time today, you'll be able to see a lot of information that will be shared throughout the following slides. Now, before we get into the product, let's talk about Australia. So if you're here today, that actually means Australia means something to you, right? So why is Australia such a popular pick among migrants all over the world, right? Australia has been always winning the world's most livable city year after year. Okay, no doubt. In fact, there was a particular year where out of the top 10, 4 cities were from Australia. So this speaks volume about how Australia is such a livable country. And generally, Asians choose Australia as their first pick. For many reasons, Australia is also a country that you actually can adapt very well, easily, right? I used to share with my clients that when I actually go to the US, I actually feel I'm in a different planet. But when you actually go to Australia, you kind of gel very quickly into the environment. And being Malaysian, Australia is just 5 to 8 hours away. So that's, again, a very important factor in choosing a migration destination. But apart from all this, Australia being livable, they have a very good infrastructure. What is also attractive is what you get as a PR in Australia, okay? So one of the nice things to know is a PR gets all the things that you're looking at the screen right now. First of all is Medicare benefit, okay? Medicare is basically the access to government healthcare system in Australia. So you will be actually getting free healthcare in the government and subsidized for certain treatment. Being Australia PR, you can live and work anywhere in Australia, okay? There's no restriction. And Australian taxation system, you may think that, oh, their tax brackets are very high, but fret not, because in return, you also get back. And this is given through many things: welfare benefits, family tax relief benefits that usually you will get. Most importantly, free and subsidized education. In fact, this point is the main point that makes almost 80% of our clients migrate to Australia. It's to give their children a quality education at a subsidized fee, okay? So primary and secondary school education in Australia for PRs are generally, tuition fees are all free, okay? And for tertiary education, you would only pay roughly 30% of what an international student would be paying. So if you see our clients who are already settled in Australia, the children will usually be enrolled into top universities like RMIT, University of Melbourne, all the top picks. That's where they go. And work rights is one of the most important benefits that you also get being an Australian PR. So this is very important because I'm sure many of you here might have tried looking for a job, Okay, so if you try to apply for a job online, you would always have a standard reply. Not always, but 98% of the time, a standard reply to say, what are your work rights, right? So without a work rights, the recruiter in Australia, usually they will not be able to proceed further, okay? So hence why it's important for you to have your PR and then look for a job, and then it's fine. So you get welfare benefits, you have pathway to Australian citizenship, first home buyer grant, you get like a subsidy of like almost 8,000 Aussie for your first home that the state gives you, the state government gives you. You can sponsor a family member like parents, spouse, child. Most importantly, it's almost as good as a citizen. Being an Australia PR, you're basically as good as a citizen. So what can a PR do? Or rather, what can a citizen do, or rather the PR cannot do? Just two things. If you're not an Australian citizen, you will not be able to, number one, vote. Number two, work in the government sector. So certain government sector jobs would require a certain level of security clearance that's only given to citizens. Other than that, being a PR, you get equal benefits as a citizen. And this is why it makes Australian PR so attractive, because you don't really have to give up your current citizenship in your home country. Okay, so that's a bit about the PR benefits. Now let's look into the outlook. Okay, so ever since the Labour government took over last year, the highlights have been about skill migration. Okay, skill migration is the top priority for Australia right now. You'll be surprised to see that it's no longer about how you perceive Australia, about wanting investors or wanting business people to come in. No longer. If you can look at the stats, you'll be able to see that the business and innovation and investment stream only accounts for 1,900 from the total migration program that is planned for this year. So when we say this year, it starts from 1st July to 30th of June 2024. But look at the amount of counts that you have for skill independent visa, which is the general skill migration. Everything is on a 30,000 bracket. Okay, so if you look at this total sum, 72% of the entire migration places are for skill program. Okay, so if this is not encouraging, I really do not know what is. And if you can look at this, look at 2022, 2023. This is what we went through the past 10 months. Okay, the past 10 months has been really good for us. We've been getting a lot of invitations for our clients, things that we have never seen in the past, 6 to 7 years. Invitations are very healthy right now, simply because quotas are high. So as you can see, the quota for this year is still high, which means it's also a good time this year, just like last year. So don't miss the boat, all right? These are the common pathways for migration. Our focus today is going to be on number one, which is general skill. But there are also other pathways for those who may not qualify for general skill migration. You have the global talent visa, which is mainly for those who are able to demonstrate exceptional and outstanding achievements. Employer-sponsored visa is if you actually have an employer in Australia who is willing to sponsor you a visa with a job offer, of course. Family sponsor is for parents, child, spouse. And last but not least, business innovation stream. Okay, so this is for those who are current business owners or investors who are willing to invest at least 2.5 million Aussie in Australia. Okay. So let's go get into the focus today, which is about general skill migration. So for those who are joining us for the first time, just for the benefit of for you, I'll be running through the basic requirements of general skill migration. So what is nice about general skill migration is this is a program where you do not need to have a job offer or a job in hand before applying for the visa. Okay, so there's a lot of misconception that people think, oh, I must first get a job and then apply this visa. No, this visa is basically done on the basis of your current experience and qualifications. Okay, so how do you qualify for this? Number one, you need to be below 45 years of age. There's a point test to meet. You need to meet 65 points. And what are the factors that contributes towards these points? You're talking about age, qualification, the number of work experience that you have, your English test, how high it is. Did you complete your qualifications in Australia? Are you single? Are you married? If you're married, is your partner skilled? So there are a lot of factors that contributes towards this. Okay, so 65 is basic. So it doesn't mean being 65. So if you meet 65, it doesn't mean you're going to get an invitation immediately. So that's where we need to come in and tell you, okay, your profile is strong or your profile is not strong. Okay. Then number three, your occupation needs to be on the Australian skill occupation list. There's actually 500 over occupations. You'll be surprised because you usually hear the norm, which is doctors, nurses. You even talk about trade workers like plumber, tiler. Oh, Australia needs all this sort of occupation. But there's so many other professional occupations that are available for migration. Okay, the entire list is so vast. Okay, and just send us a CV for us to determine if your occupation is on the list or not. Number four, English. Okay, you must have an English test done to demonstrate that your English level is at the minimum competent level. Okay, so competent is what we call band 6. All right, so how do you demonstrate this? You can either do the IELTS test, IELTS, which everyone knows is by British Council, or PTE, Pearson Test of English. All right, so you can do either one, but what I see in our client database is many clients fare much better in PTE. Okay, so that is something that I may be advocating when I meet you for the consultation as well. Okay, last but not least, you must get an invitation. So without receiving an EOI invitation, you will not be able to submit a visa. All right, so these are the basic criteria that you need to qualify. Now, let's look at the visa classes that are available for a general skill migration program. There are basically 3 visa classes. Okay, 189, 190, 491. All right, the 189 and 190, these 2 visas gets you a direct permanent residency in Australia. Okay, you get a direct PR. So what does direct PR mean? Meaning, let's say you are here right now in your home country and you apply for your visa, and let's say you get your visa in 1.5 years' time. That visa that's given to you has a full PR status without you even setting foot in Australia yet. Okay, so this is literally gold. Okay, this is a very, very valuable visa. So there are 2 types here. 189 is skill independent. So skill independent means that this is a visa where there are no third party involved. Is directly selected from the system. The system is programmed to select profiles according to points ranking. Okay, whereas for 190, skill nominated. So as the word nominated goes, nominated means you have to have a nomination from a particular state or territory government. So what we need to see here is to review and monitor which particular state has your occupation, and then we need to express interest to the state. And when they select you and nominate you, you can proceed to get an invitation and submit the visa. So the 189 and 190 being direct PR, you have a 5 years visa. And all you need to do is basically live in Australia for 2 years, cumulatively. Okay, it doesn't have to be continuous, just cumulatively. And as long as you fulfill the 2 years of stay within a 5-year period, you get the next 5 years. That's how Australia PR works across any type of PR, be it parent, be it business, be it spouse. Okay. Now, the subclass 491, this is a visa that is granted to you as a temporary resident first, okay? But this temporary residency has a pathway, in fact, a very clear pathway towards converting into full PR, okay? The 491 has 2 pathways, which is through the state and through the relatives, through a relative sponsorship. I'm not going to cover much about the relative sponsorship because honestly, the quotas for this it's really, really small. Okay, so let's not focus on that. So what the invitations that we usually get in our office is 491 through the state. Okay, we receive a lot of invitations for 491 through the state. So this visa is also for 5 years. So for 5 years, you have a temporary resident visa. But this temporary residency can be converted into PR, provided you or your partner, so it's head of the family, any head of the family, needs to show minimum 3 years of tax statements from the Australian Taxation Office. Okay, that's all you need to do. There is no minimum income threshold. You just need to show 3 tax statements. Okay, and this visa only allows you to live, work, or study in a regional area in Australia. So what are regional areas in Australia? Okay, it's generally low population area and low population area. Okay, that is in room for growth. Okay, that is supposed to be growing. So the government wants you to go and help to grow and develop these places. So this is anywhere except Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne. So only these 3 cities in the entire Australia you cannot be living, working, or studying in. All right, anywhere else is fine. So once you comply with the 3 years of tax statements, you get a full PR, and it's as good as the 189 and 190. Okay, so these are the 3 visa classes for your reference. Let's now go into how the general process is. Okay, so the skill migration process is basically represented by these 4 bubbles. Okay, the first one is a skill assessment. So skill assessment is where we send your documents to confirm your nominated occupation. All right, then you do the English test. So once your occupation is confirmed and you have your English test with these 2 items, we move to the second bubble, which is the heart of your application, which is the expression of interest, EOI. All right, so what happens in EOI? You're expressing your interest to, okay, I'm going to express to 190 or 491. I'm going to express my interest to South Australia or NSW. They get to see your points and your profile, okay? And then see who's picking you, who's sending you an invitation. Once you get an invitation, that's when you move to the third bubble where you submit your visa, okay? So when you submit your visa, that is already at federal level, okay? And then once you have a case officer allocated to you, you will then need to complete medical tests, okay? It's basically a health check where they just want to rule out critical conditions, okay? So if you have a little bit of diabetes or cholesterol, all this is not an issue, okay? And you need to have your character clearance done, okay? Police checks, basically, okay? Once this is done, you get your visa decision. So usually a standard processing time to progress from the first bubble right to the last bubble, generally about 1.5 years time. It can get faster depending on certain profiles, but this is a very safe timeline. So this is the process. Everything is step by step, stage by stage, okay? Now, let's get into the 5 most important steps in a skill migration application. So number 1, you need to be pre-assessed, okay? So pre-assessment and consultation is very important. So what we do is ensure that your CV is actually reviewed by a real qualified person. Okay, so when I say a real qualified person, meaning migration agent or someone who's really experienced and not a sales team. All right, so it is also important for you as a client to give us a CV with a complete employment history and qualification details, because it really matters. In order for us to assess, usually we can even assess up to the last 12 years or so, depending on your occupation. So we must be able to see we must be able to see your CV and then do a pre-assessment from there. Once you are eligible, a consultation takes place. in the consultation, you will be advised on your eligibility, the process itself, your points, where you stand. Are you going to make the cut or are you not going to make the cut? Is this an application that's worth investing in? And of course, the cost. Okay, so please be really informed before starting the migration process by having a detailed consultation done. Let's look at number 2, compiling the right documents. So why do I say compiling the right documents? Because many people compile documents, but are you sure if the documents are actually right? Okay, so this is because you saw the 4 bubbles earlier, right? There's one place for the skill assessment, then the second bubble is for state nomination, third place is for immigration. There are 3 different authorities that looks at your document, and these 3 different authorities can have different requirements, especially skills assessment stage. Okay, so skills assessment stage, for example, let's talk about Australian Computer Society. If you're an IT person, okay, if you're an IT person, the document requirement for ACS is very stringent. In fact, I would say they're one of the most stringent one. Okay, so, and if you provide a document that is not sufficient, they are not going to come back to you and say, hey, give me more. They're going to be more like, I cannot assess this occupation. That's it. So you're going to pay $500 and your assessment is not going to be completed the right way. Okay, so be guided on the right document requirement. Okay, it's very tedious. I always set the right expectation to the client to say like, hey, you know what, this part is going to be tedious, but once we get through this part, everything is going to be fine. Okay, so we always believe in getting the right documents from the beginning and not tell you, okay, let's just make do and have problem later, right? Documents must be proper from the beginning, all right? Then it will be easy for you later, right? Next, number 3, skills assessment. So you also, we usually will be advising you what is the best nominated occupation for you. There are some people, it's very clear-cut. You might be marketing, I can only put you as marketing, okay? But sometimes, for example, should I put you as marketing or should I put you as a sales and marketing manager? This matters, right? If you're in IT, should I put you as an IT project manager or can I just put you as a program and project administrator? So these are different ways of assessing. So leave it to the experts to choose the right occupation for you and the right authority, okay? Depending on which works in your best favor. So, and be updated as well if some of the assessment authorities actually have fast track. So everybody wants to rush these days. For example, Engineers Australia, that's fast track. So you want to be making use of this criteria, right? Where, I mean, this kind of facilities of fast track and all that. So you get into the EOI pool faster. English test. So PTE or IELTS, which one are you more comfortable with, right? So PTE is something that a lot of clients generally adapt to easily, okay? We at Global Migration will be actually providing a free orientation session for our clients directly from Pearson's. It's usually like a 2-hour session where they'll walk you through the entire format, okay? So you cannot not take this test. There's no exemption unless you are a Western country passport holder, right? Last but not least, maximize chances for invitation. So how do you maximize chance for invitation? You do know that without an invitation, you can't submit a visa. So how do you maximize, right? Of course, boost your scores, right? Number 1, boost your scores on your immigration point test. How do you boost your score? What are the variable factors? English, for example. Excuse me. English, for example, is somewhere that you can try and boost it further. Let's say you're getting proficient. You can boost it to become superior. That actually adds up 10 points. Have you heard of something called NATI? NATI is actually credential community language, right? Where if you're able to translate and interpret into another language, you can gain 5 points. Do you have a partner who is skilled? We should even assess your partner, right? So a thorough assessment must be done from the beginning, so you know how to maximize your profile, okay, for better chances of invitation. Next, you can also submit multiple EOIs, okay? So one of my clients asked me, oh, I thought I could only submit one EOI. No, you can submit multiple EOIs. So we can actually submit multiple EOIs to see, to basically expand your options, to see who picks you faster, right? Or which state would like your profile better, right? So we need to know all this. I know many people like Melbourne, but you must really see if your profile suits Melbourne or not, okay? So will they pick you? Because if you're waiting there for 1 year and you don't get an invitation, what's the point, right? So we have to be very realistic and choose the right visa class. I know many of you would want to go for a 189, right? Because it's a direct PR, but will you make the cut for 189? If you say, I only want 190, do you make the cut for 190? Are you waiting too long and missing on opportunities, right? So you really need to know where you actually stand. If you think, okay, you know what, if I'm going to submit my EOI for 190 with Victoria only, you're going to wait and you're not submitting to Sydney, you might miss out the opportunity there, right? So these are the things that you really need to be guided on, okay? So if you actually follow these 5 steps in this order, getting the right consultation, submitting the right documents, picking the right occupation, getting your English test done, and maximizing chances for invitation, generally it's a very strong application that you can expect, okay? So do not miss out these 5 steps. And of course, when you're on board with this, this is how we'll be guiding you through all these 5 important steps in making sure your migration application is going to be a successful one. All right. So this is just a little bit of sharing of information of the invitations. This is not all, but this is just a quick extract of what I've taken from our own profile to see how encouraging it is to see that someone with 65 points actually got invited for 189. Engineers, excellent auditors, lecturers, any lecturers here, you actually can get invited with 65 points. Look at graphic designers also at 65 points. So there's a lot of encouraging data here, right? And I always share this so people know, hey, even this worked, so it might work for me as well, right? So very healthy. This is what we've been experiencing for the past 10 months. And for this year, the states have not opened up yet. They're still finalizing their quotas. They're going to open up very soon. And once they open up, we are going to have a roller coaster again of invitations for sure. Okay, so that's it from me. I'm going to actually pass on to Nurul to take it forward.
Thank you, Audrey, for the very informative session. So I bet you guys are excited. Well, I hope you guys are, at least with all the details that she has shared. And now, what's next for me? So basically, the first step, if you are keen on the skilled migration pathway, send us your CV for an eligibility check and a free assessment. I can't stress this enough, how important it is to start right. You have nothing to lose, basically. This first step, as you know, mentioned here on the screen, it's free. You know, if you are keen, send us your CV. We will help you get the right guidance, get the right advice. I know sometimes some people would say that, oh, I had a friend who did it themselves. your friend is lucky that there were no hiccups, but not everyone is as lucky. We have heard many stories of people who started without getting the right advice, only to fumble in the middle and lose their way. So migration is a life-changing decision. It does not only affect you as a person, it affects your family as well, and also financially. So let us help you at least, to provide you with the right information for you to make an informative decision on your future. So the next step, step 2, if you are eligible, of course, we will be more than happy to fix a complimentary consultation, which is free for our consultants to advise you further and guide you on the available pathways and, how to start, what documentation is required, and like what Audrey mentioned just now, what is the right nominated occupation for you, what is suitable. And yep, step 3 is step 3 is basically an extension of step 2, which is a detailed consultation. So this is where we basically handhold you in order to kickstart the process. We would advise you on your points or how to increase your points. We would create a tailored strategy on how to ensure that you are able to get your visa granted. And step 4, obviously, kickstart your migration journey without delaying. This is a good opportunity, like Audrey mentioned at the beginning. The Australia government, they are aggressively nominating offshore applicants. They've opened the doors for offshore applicants this round, and we've received many invitations for our clients. It's a really great time. We don't know how long this window of opportunity will last, and we really hope that if for those who are really keen and we really want to go for the Australia skilled migration pathway, we really do hope that you don't delay and don't miss your chance. Okay, so can I just take a bit of your time? I swear it won't take even 1 minute. Just take out your phone. I'm going to do this together with you, by the way. So scan this QR code and it will take you to our link tree where, at the top page of the link tree is a subscribe button with a bell. So just press on that and you'll be subscribing to all of our social media where you will be able to get the latest info from us. You'll see, of course, Desmond, Audrey, and even myself, our videos sharing information that may assist you in your application. And yes, this next QR code that you see here is basically, it will take you to our online form. So if, another way to provide your information is by scanning this QR code. And once our once you see that online form page, just fill in the details. It will take you 5 minutes tops and submit that, and our team will be in touch with you usually within 24 to 48 hours. And you can also drop us an email or feel free to WhatsApp us on that number that you see on the screen there. I am the person who holds that number, so you will get through directly to me, and I'll be more than happy to assist you with any inquiries that you have. Okay, so the part where I think most of you have been waiting for, our Q&A session. And Audrey, we already have some questions here. The first question actually that I'm quite interested to share with everyone. So I'll just read this out. If I am in the midst of interviewing for a new job, do you recommend starting the occupation skill assessment before or after I get a new job? And what if I get a new job with similar roles and responsibilities after you guys submit for skill assessment? Okay, go ahead, Audrey.
Okay. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, because you're in the same role, okay? As long as you're doing the same function, switching roles doesn't matter, right? That's number one. Whether or not your new role needs to be included in the assessment, your skills assessment would depend on how many years do you have already. So I would actually need to see. So for example, like if you are 6 years on the point test, if you actually have 6 years on the point test already, we need to wait another 2 years for you to hit 8 years. So in this respect, I would say you've already hit 6 years with your current employment. I do not need your new employment because it's not going to make a huge difference. But let's say you are right now at 4 years, 5 months. All right, 4 years, 5 months. You just need another 6 months, sorry, 4.5 years. You need another 6 months to make it 5 years. Then I'll say I need to include your new employment to make it ongoing so you hit the higher points. So this is something that we need to see. But most of the time, whenever there is no absolute need to include the new job, because I totally understand getting employment documents when you just start a new employer and say, hey, can you sign my reference letter? I think that's not going to be too comfortable. So usually we try not to include it. But if it's really going to make a significant difference on your points, that's when we do.
All right, thank you, Audrey. So the next question we have is from Mark Albert Roscoe. For those applicants over 40 years, what are the chances of getting invited?
Being 40 is still fine, right? Being 40 is still fine. We will just need to be very practical about which visa class that you're actually getting, right? So we have gotten invitation for clients. In fact, this year, March, the one that I can really remember is we had a client who was turning 45 on like what, 20-something March, and we received an invitation for a 491 visa from Canberra just 10 days before the birthday. 45th birthday. So this is a clear example that we actually get invitation when they are 44 years old, almost turning 45. So we see this all the time. Being 40, it doesn't matter, but we need to be realistic on what are your points standing. So sometimes you can be 40, but your points are really high. Like maybe you have a PhD and maybe you studied in Australia and you got a lot of points. You might even make the cut for a direct PR. Otherwise, it'll be a 491. So totally fine, above 40. Just don't come to us when you're 44 and 44 with 6 months. That's too tight to work on. Being 40 is totally fine.
Yep, agreed. Our next question, is sales one of the listed occupations? So a bit general.
Okay, so sales, generally no, but specific sales such as ICT product, yes. Okay, so sales of ICT products is actually defined. Okay, sales of technical products is also defined. Other than that, if it's just normal retail sales, right, that's not on the list. But sometimes when you actually do sales plus marketing, then what we can do is focus on the marketing bit.
Okay, and the next question here is about teaching. With masters in teaching, can I apply for 189 immediately after my graduation in Western Australia, Perth, without work experience? And what are the chances, basically?
Okay, so yes, the first question is yes. So generally, teaching is a professional qualification. So just on the basis of completing your 4-year bachelor's and master's in a particular field, right? That means whether you're a secondary school teacher or a special needs or early childhood, you already qualify for a skill assessment and you can actually apply for a visa, right? You can actually apply for a skill independent visa, in fact, if you're doing early childhood or secondary school, okay? Western Australia specifically, I will just need to recheck. It should be fine, but I just need to recheck again if Western Australia has prerequisites that you should be working certain number of years. Okay, so this is what happens with state nominations. Every state has their own requirement. Okay, so for example, if you're doing this with Sydney, I can tell you Sydney doesn't need to have work experience, right? But if you're doing this with Canberra, you must have work experience. So what I need to check is whether Western Australia has listed that you must have certain number of years of experience. If it's listed, then you cannot apply to Western Australia. You need to look at other states or do skill independent.
Okay, on to the next question. We'll take a few more and we'll stop at about 8:50. So the next one is about EOI. Thanks for the good presentation. You're most welcome. My wife and I lodged an application in 2018, but our EOI and English tests have expired in 2020. Is it possible to renew our application or do we start from scratch again?
Okay, so if it's 2018, pretty much your skills assessment would have expired because skills assessment usually just have a 3-year validity. Okay, so that needs to be revalidated depending on which authority you are with. Okay, so if it's Engineers Australia or if it's VETASAS or if it's ACS, everything is different in the way of revalidating the application, the result to become valid again. English test would have also expired. So generally, when you say start again or redo again, you just need to redo these 2 parts actually, the assessment and the English. And after that, submit the EOI again. And a note for this particular person who's asking, if at all you did not see any movement in 2018, don't be disheartened, because in 2018 and 2019, the migration was really tough. It was really tough. So if you didn't get an invitation back then, don't think you're not going to make the cut now. Okay, because what happened last year for us, or like I said, the past 10 months, is a lot of clients who were also stuck, right? It was also stuck because the system was either too tough or pandemic kicked in. A lot of invitations were being given last year and this year. All right.
Okay, thank you, Audrey. I know I said that I want to cut it at 8:50, but there's these 3 other really good questions that I think we should share with everyone as well. So, yep, the first one, if I opt to apply for one of the visa subclass but is not accepted, could I convert it to another visa subclass or do I need to start a separate application?
Okay.
I think you might be referring to the EOI stage.
EOI, right? Yeah, it looks like. Okay, so no. So basically, if you don't get an invitation for a particular visa class, then we just need to review to see if we can put you in another visa class. So if you actually recall the 5 steps, the 5th step spoke about maximizing chances for invitation, right? This is exactly it, right? So if you were only waiting on one particular visa class, so let's talk about maybe, like we know for a fact, Melbourne selects very high pointers for IT, okay? And if you're only going to continue waiting on Melbourne alone for 190, nothing happens, then you should switch to another visa. So you're not redoing another application, not at all. Your same documents can be resubmitted again, just another EOI profile, that's it.
Mm-hmm. And the second question, I am undecided yet on actually migrating, but would like to hold the PR as an option for the future. What happens if I get the PR, but am unable to stay in Australia for 2 years cumulatively? Okay.
Very good question. In fact, this is a question that might be toying in a lot of people's mind, because you might be having a very, very happy and comfortable life right now, right? But what you don't know is how this PR might help you or your kids 5 years down the road, okay? And when you think you need it 5 years down the road, sometimes it's too late. The entire migration system might change. You might not be eligible, and we've just seen too many cases like this. So what's important is, which we always stress, apply when the system favors you, okay? You must apply and get it and then plan about moving later. Okay, so like now, system is really favoring, right? I'm doing this for 13 years, and I can certainly tell you, I actually call this a temporary reset. Okay, it's a temporary reset. It's only like this because of COVID, right? Because during COVID, a lot of people had to return to their home countries and they couldn't come back. So now the Australian government really needs people, right? They really need people. So this is a temporary reset. You can see the application process is not short, it's long. It takes minimum 1.5 years. After 1.5 years, you have another 5 years to plan to go. You can even go as late as the 1 day before expiry of your PR. Or even if you can't go 1 day before expiry of PR, you can still renew it of what we call resident return visa, which we do. So speak to us. If you're worried about timeline, speak to us. We, in the consultation, we will do a planning for you on the timeline.
Right. And last but not least, how long does the skill assessment take? I saw online that some got it within a week, while some take months.
Yep, that would actually depend on which authority you fall in, right? So for example, there are fast track routes as was covered on the 5 steps. So like Engineers Australia, they actually have a fast track as well, a fast track option where you get it within 20 working days. At the same time, some authorities like ACS takes 3 months. So it really depends which authority you fall in.
All right. Thank you so much, Audrey. And that's all the time that we have today. Thank you everyone for attending and for staying on until the end. And for questions that we didn't manage to answer, don't worry, our team will get back to you within this week to get your queries answered. And if you have more questions after this, feel free to reach out to us. Like you saw just now, there's that number, that mobile number. You can WhatsApp us, you can email us, you can give us a call, whichever you're comfortable with. And if you are already confident, this is what you want, then drop us your CV so that we can help you and guide you and provide you with the right information for you to take that next step forward. All right.
All right.
So thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Audrey, and thank you, everyone. Have a good rest, good night, and see you in our next session. Bye.